everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and today I am so tickled, so excited. I have let me say that again, Dr. Mike Rodriguez. People call him Dr. Rod. He is an author and a leading expert on a leading educational expert. I'll get my words together. Who works on issues of equity, diversity, leadership, and minority male development. So, first and foremost, Dr. Rod, thank you for hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you today.
You're so sweet. A lot of people don't know the backstory to this show, but a lot of times I just roam around the internet sending guys these messages like, hey, you don't know me from a can of paint, but would you give me 30 minutes of your time and tell me about who you are and everything that you're doing? So I really, really feel so humbled. And I'm so appreciative when guys say, yes, I'll talk to you for 30 minutes, you strange, crazy lady. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Now I want to start because, like I said, I only have 30 minutes. But when I was on your website getting ready for today's show, Dr. Rod, there's a video of your personal story about how, at an early age, you were tested and labeled as a 6'9" kid in the New York public school system, and how that eventually led your path towards stuffing tacos and flipping burgers for 4 years after high school.
Yes.
So I want you to kind of briefly recap that story, but it's going to lead into my first question of knowing what you know now and being so involved in the education system. How does a parent start to push back when their child is tested as a slow learner? So tell your story and then kind of give me some suggestions on what parents can do.
My pleasure. The short version is my parents moved to a different part of town. I had to take a test to enter the local school. It was late in August, so I took the test, and like I said, I thought I killed it. Turns out the school had 10 sections. Section one was the Brainiacs. They're the guys and girls running the world now, probably, I don't know. And 610 were the students who were mentally, intellectually handicapped. Well, I tested into section 6-9, and that was a complete surprise to me. But 6-9 kids were, I believe, kids who just simply had like maybe ADHD or, maybe they were slow learners. But the thing about it was they were treated that way. And there was very low expectations from anybody from a section 6-9. And that followed me throughout my academic career, to not really considering college, to 4 years of my post high school experience, which I barely graduated, but I did it, to stuffing tacos and flipping burgers as a thing to do while I partied on the weekends and some nights. And then there's a transformation story of how I kind of started to change my perspective on that incident, who I was and what it meant to be a Section 6-9 kid. But I tell any parent, ask questions.
Okay.
Never to simply accept what the school system tells you. The teachers, principals, counselors are wonderful people, but they're flawed people, and they come to the education system with their own biases. And sometimes those biases play out, and we have no idea they're playing out. So ask, question everything. Do your best to be a parent who is actively involved the best you can in your child's learning experience.
Okay.
Minimum, make sure all your teachers and the principal and assistant principal and the counselor know who you are and who your child is.
Gotcha. Okay, so start to be vocal and present. Now, we're discussing the parent saying, wait a minute, I don't think little Johnny is a slow learner. He might need different educational tools, but I don't think he's a slow learner. But sometimes it slips by the parent because, like I said, it's an overwhelming process. The child tests, this is what the school says, so this is what my child must be. So we might lose the advantage in that element of the parent saying something. But you also have the student. And sometimes you have kids that, they're looking to the left and they're looking to the right in these slow learner classes, and they're saying, I don't feel like I belong here. Um, so being that child, what would you say to a kid? Because that can be like an uphill battle to get yourself out of that class. How do you test from 6'9" to move up to 6'5" to move up to 6'3"? How do you push back as a student?
Again, I think first it begins with parents teaching your child to be an advocate for themselves.
Okay.
It's very difficult to do, right? Some children have the propensity just to be more quiet or more reserved, so they may not ask questions. I think one of the things it's amazing. My parents actively taught me to question everything,
Hmm.
right? But yet in sixth grade, when I felt very uncomfortable being in a section 6-9, I didn't vocalize it because I also was taught to respect authority,
Oh, gotcha.
right? So it's this fine line that we teach our children to say, look, yes, you respect authority, but you also, in respecting authority, doesn't mean you can't question authority. And
Mm-hmm.
you always have the right to ask questions. I would encourage any young person, if they're uncomfortable in a class, tell their parents,
Mm-hmm.
tell a counselor, tell somebody,
Okay.
and start the conversation.
Okay. Start the conversation. So there's a lot of attention being brought to this over the years about how, especially our kids, are put into these slow learner classes when in reality we just need a different educational styles most often. Um, because you're more active in the environment than I am, do you see any shifts or some changes in what's being done for our kids these days?
I see some shifts, but it's a slow process, right? The
Mm,
education system has not changed in honestly hundreds of years. It was designed to do something very specific. Some people will say, and I tend to believe that our education system was designed to create very good workers, right? Very obedient young people who become
mm,
very obedient adults. If you look at the way the system is designed, you have to march in a first, second, third grader with all this energy and all this life and sit them down and sit in your seat for an hour. That's almost impossible.
yes,
That
yes.
is that is, you know, an insurmountable task for a young person. Sit, right? Raise your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Raise your hand when you want to speak. Raise your hand when you want to go to the bathroom. You're basically conditioning young people to always ask permission to live.
Oh, okay. Good point. Good
And
point.
that's what the system has been created to do. Um, so it is some changes. I think we are getting a better understanding that students from different cultures learn differently. There are
Mm-hmm.
different types of students who learn differently within all cultures. And some schools will make an effort to create a whole school around acknowledging different learners, right?
Okay.
But those are few and far between. And ultimately, school is a business. And there's always a bottom line that comes with money. You know, there's a reason, there's enormous budgets behind school systems, enormous budgets. And behind every budget is somebody's paycheck.
Mm,
So it's somebody's family, right? So to create sweeping change, it's very resistant because there's people right now who have made multi-million dollars off the system the way it is now. Why
mm,
would I want to change it?
mm.
Especially if I'm in a position of a policymaker and I've made very good money on the current system. Why would I change it? In fact, no, I won't change it. I'll fight to make sure it stays the same because guess what? I want my kids to come into this system and get into the position that I am. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore now we can all make money off this wonderful system of education.
That becomes their legacy. Wow. Now you mentioned I struggle with a whole bunch of things with the public education system. You mentioned it's a money making industry, and I know that I don't like it, but it makes me think of a conversation I was having with uh, some over enthused sports parents, I like to call them. And they were really, really pushing their child in high school, to really kind of focus on the sports because that was their ticket to college. And I had pulled up uh, an article about how illiterate a lot of college students were. And one lady was saying, I think it was in North Carolina, she was saying that a lot of the students that she had worked with didn't have higher than a fifth grade education. So I understand the springboard from high school to college as far as athletics. And, there's a lot of pressure on administrators and educators to kind of look the other way when it comes to an athlete. But what's broken in the public school system where you're starting to turn your head for a fifth, sixth, seventh grader just because they can dribble a ball or throw a football? I don't understand that. Maybe you can help me or no or what.
Well, again, it's that old statement: follow the money, right?
Mm,
Um, you know, at, you know, a, a high school that generates a D1 star player can get a lot of money in boosters, right?
mm-hmm,
Alum want to pour into that high school, right?
mm-hmm,
Alum want to pour into that junior high, right?
mm-hmm.
Similar to college. Alum want to pour into that. So it is really about positioning themselves to say, look at what we produced at any means necessary, right? And I mean that by, regardless of the lack of education this young person gets, look at we produce. We produced a D1 star athlete who's going straight to the league,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's again, and I know, and I hate to paint this picture of the big bad education system, but there's some realities that we just have to face about the education system. I'm a proponent for education. I think education, when done right, and when used as the tool rather than be used, you can really benefit from it.
Okay.
But again, there's some realities where, finding a kid in fifth grade or sixth grade and then tracking that kid because they're a great athlete works great for the junior high because look at they produce. Great for the high school, look at what they produce. And of course, great for the college, look at what we produced.
Okay. So I think that must be my ignorance. So I know like alumni boosters give money high school wise, but that also happens like middle school wise as well.
Well, it attracts attentions to the school in a way where people will want to send their kids to that school. People
Okay.
will want to get involved in that school. You know, any sports team at any level, it's expensive.
Mm,
Okay. If there's a way to find sponsorships
yeah.
for your fifth grade team or your sixth grade team,
Mm,
there's not that many schools that's going to say no. And if you're able to produce a high performing 12-year-old who brings the
amazing.
attention needed to get simply sponsorships for the team, right?
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, it just, I don't know. I just read it and I was like, fifth and sixth grade. I said, we excuse my term, but we're pimping like the 12-year-olds now. But I couldn't, I couldn't wrap my mind around it, Doctor. But okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on because I only got a little bit of time with Doctor Rod today. Um, a lot of this boils down to having some good examples around these kids. We spoke about, kids being taught to speak up for themselves, parents being vocal about what their kids need or whatever. And this boils down to mentorship, which is your specialty and what you do. Um, you have a book out called Mentoring Myths. And I'm curious because we've been talking about education, but people need mentors not only in education. You need mentorship when you're about to embark on a marriage. You need mentorship at a new job. You need mentorship all around. So, um, what are some, if you could, without giving the whole book away, what is something that somebody needs to look for when they're looking for a good fit for a mentor?
Absolutely. First, let me say I wrote the book because I do have some experience running mentoring programs. I am a professional mentor, meaning my actual vocation is for the past 12 years directing a mentoring program for African American and Latino males at a community college. That is what I do. I also do some other programs outside of that. And one of the things I found was there's a lot of myths around mentorship, especially when you're trying to get a young person to get a mentor. They may have a misinterpretation of what a great mentor is. So I wrote the book Mentoring Myths to talk about 6 common myths that people always see. And I think one of the first ones is this idea that your mentor has to be a multimillionaire.
Mm.
A lot of young people only wanted to be mentored by somebody who's a multi-millionaire, or are attracted, especially online, by people who pose in front of Ferrari and say, "Hey, trust me, I'm a mentor." I'm standing on the balcony of Cakes and Turks and Caicos, smiling, right, saying, "Trust me, I'm a mentor," and that attracts people. Now, your mentor should have some expertise, but they don't have to be a multimillionaire. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the common myths that people really get caught up in. They'd rather follow somebody who has the outward trappings of success rather than an actual track record of doing what that mentee wants to achieve.
Mm. So the young kids are looking for the Instagram person to be their mentor, and they're not looking at Uncle Joe who runs the successful corner store anymore, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. They'll pull up a Instagram mentor in a minute, follow them, like, share. But yet you're so right. They got their Uncle Joe, who is a successful businessman, and has been
Amazing.
so for 25 years, through all ups and downs. But they don't want to hear a word Uncle Joe got to say.
Amazing. It's right there. The fruit is right there for you to grab off of the tree, and you refuse to pick it. Amazing. Now, you mentioned while you were talking just now about the work that you do at City University of New York, and it's the Black
Yeah.
Male Initiative program, right?
Yes.
I want to hear about that.
Sure, absolutely. The program I run is called the Men's Resource Center. It is part of the City University of New York's Black Male Initiative program. Now, there is a program in every CUNY college. So there's about 30 programs. Mine is located at Kingsborough Community College.
Okay.
Our whole goal is to get students to and through college successfully by providing them a holistic college experience, fundamentally through peer to peer mentoring, but
Mm,
also through providing social emotional workshops. Because one of the important things about getting through college, rarely have I met a student who could not academically do the work. But the truth is, so many students don't graduate. So
hmm.
there's this other thing that I just label as life that happens that prevents them from obtaining that college degree. A lot of the work we do is working with young people to help them handle that life part so that long after they finish college, they're still equipped with some skills to help them succeed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I remember many moons ago when I started at UCLA, they had a freshman, incoming freshman program for the Black students, and the lecture that we got in the beginning: look to the left of you, look to the right of you. Only one of you is going to make it, and that was just so like wow, like. But that's the reality when we're students of color going to these predominantly white universities. We have so many other issues that we have to deal with. So it's good to have programs like that. But also with the work that you do, I think, especially when it comes to men of color, uh, it's just such a struggle to get more of them to even see college as a viable opportunity. Like, what's the disconnect? Why is it, I'm going to elementary school, I'm going to middle school, I'm going to high school. Why don't you want to just go more?
Yeah. In a way, it's like it's almost counterintuitive. Like, well, okay, if you've gone through all this K through 12 school, why not just go into college? But I think one of the realities that I think we have to face is culturally, college is not important in a lot of our communities, or college is a forget second. It's a third or fourth choice because a lot of times, still in our cultures that we come from, the man must provide,
Mhm.
the man must work. He can't be a burden to his family,
Mhm.
right? Even in pursuing a college degree, he is still can be deemed a burden if he costs too much financially to support him through this college
Mm.
uh, journey that he wants to do, right? And at 18, 19, 17, young men feel that they're men and they want to produce, they want to contribute, right? So if you give them a choice between working and making immediate money or deferring that work for 4 years, and tell him, oh, it's possible that you'll make more money in 4 or 5 years. Sometimes that's just not a reality.
Mhm.
My family needs money now, and I am an able-bodied person who needs to go out and perform and produce, even if it's at minimum wage.
Mm.
I may not be able to pay my mama's rent, but you know what? She don't have to take care of me.
Gotcha, gotcha. Understood, understood. I do a lot of relationship counseling. I do women's seminars, and a lot of the young sisters are telling me one of the struggles that they're having is most often Black women are seeking higher education, but finding partners with the same status, educational goals, attainment as they are is difficult. And I'm just wondering, how do we find the balance? But you pointed out some good points there that it's just men are expected to provide. So you're either going to have to choose here. Do I take off this 4 to 8 years to do this, or do you want me to put some bacon in the frying pan? So whatever. But it's an interesting dynamic where culturally we have different weights on us that other cultures don't. So we have to give and take on some things. Oh,
And it's also the most immediate. If you think about it, other cultures, college is a norm, right? And it's simply a norm simply because their parents or their grandparents already went through college, right? So as a family, they understand. Look, I get how deferring you working right now will make sense because it worked for me and it worked for your grandfather. But there are so many African American and Latino young people who are first generation,
yes.
right? First generation Americans and first generation college students. So they have no template. They,
Mm-hmm.
they, they, they can't go home and ask their parents about what's a syllabus, right? They Who's the bursar,
Yeah.
right? Why is this person from registrar contacting me? Because those are foreign terms because there's no template
Yes.
in the home versus other cultures where there is a template and there is a understanding of the college process
Mm-hmm.
because colleges can be very confusing.
Oh, yes, very overwhelming, very overwhelming. But if you have your father and your grandfather and your great grandfather who went through the process and they probably still have some connections there, why don't you hold my baby by the hand and walk them through it, it relieves
Absolutely.
a lot of the stress. It relieves a lot of the stress. Now, as I was, like I said, getting prepared for today's show, I do a lot of snooping around on people's websites. I'm just that nosy little female. Let me figure out who this Dr. Rod is. But a lot of your pictures, I saw you talking to young gentlemen in suits. And then I was on your Instagram and I see a lot of suits. And then I saw a book, Suited for Success, right?
Yes, Suit for
Okay.
Success, Volume 2.
So, um, I'm a little old school. I'm a little old school. I'm up there in age. But I really believe that a man should, take pride in his dress. But a lot of the younger guys today, they have a different style. But I enjoyed the fact that you imparted on the guys that suits are very important. Why is the dress so important to a man's image?
Because fashion is a language, right?
Mhm.
You tell the world who you say you are by what you put on.
Mm-hmm.
and you step outside and scream to the world, this is who I am, and you haven't opened up your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because how you dress,
Mm-hmm.
how you carry yourself. And so many of our young people don't yet speak the language of professional dress.
Mm-hmm.
So they're unfortunately judged, especially at the workplace, because they don't speak that language yet. So I choose to really, really help young people speak that language, even if it's a basic form, right? How to tie a tie, right? Why should you wear an undershirt? What's a collar stay? Just small things just to help them understand the language of fashion. So
Mm-hmm.
when they get in these circles where they're expected to dress professionally, they're not lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what do you say to the young teenage boy who's trying to get a job, maybe, I don't know, in the mailroom at some corporate office, and he's comes to you and he's got his pants sagging, and he said, Dr. Rod, I'm still a good worker. It doesn't have anything to do with my character. I'm still going to show up every day. Why do I have to put on this suit? What's the argument for him?
Well, it's a very, very valid argument because you opened by saying, look, fashion styles change, right? And they've become very conservative since, well, I'd say my grandfather's time, right? Right? Because, and it's okay to express yourself, but again, understand you're expressing yourself through a language, right? If your dress only says you understand first grade language, right? You can only use first grade words, and I would say you wear sneakers every day. Or I should let me clarify that. You don't have a pair of dress shoes. There's a language you're not able to speak now. You're
Mm-hmm.
not able to communicate. And although you may start off in the mailroom, you don't want to stay in the mailroom.
Sure.
So why not present yourself as somebody who wants to be an executive, even though you're starting off in the mailroom, right? You're demonstrating that I have a language through dress that I can speak that says, yes, I'm going to work in the mailroom for now, but guess what? My language says I'd like to be an executive.
There you go. I like that. I like that. We need more male mentors like you, because sometimes I just look around in my neighborhood when I'm in the grocery store and I'm like, ooh, who's taking care of these boys today? I need some more Dr. Rods around me. I need some more Dr. Rods around. So I got one more question to ask you, and then I'm going to ask you my random question. I say the same thing every time I tape. I'm going to make these things longer than 30 minutes because I just really can talk to my guys for longer than that. But you have a program that you have that, like, I just begged for more Dr. Rides, but here you have a program. Ananias, Anna, tell me about that and say it correctly for me.
Yes, the Ananias Initiative.
There you go. I went to college. I really did, Dr.
Trust me, it took about 3 times for me to get that word down. Trust me. And then the Ananias Initiative is a faith-based program designed to help young men become everything they were meant to be, right? And it has 4 different components: career development. It has dress for success.
Okay.
It has a spiritual component, and it also has a self-exploration component.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the missing keys, I think, is I can teach you to tie a tie, but I can't give you purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you find your purpose. And then maybe tying a tie is part of that, right? So the program is designed to really, really help young men, again, come into their purpose. And it's faith based because I believe everything begins with faith. If you don't believe in something greater than yourself, when times get hard, you have nothing to lean on.
Okay. Okay. So is this something that schools can implement in their schools, or is this like a group of parents in their community? They can say, Dr. Rod, could you get this for our neighborhood? Or how does somebody get this implemented into their area?
Well, what I did is I designed a full curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is adjustable based on whoever's sitting in front of me.
Okay.
If you are a community organization and you want to develop a mentoring program to attract more young people, Well, then I will help you design the curriculum in a way that fits your program. So whether you're a school, whether you're a church, whether you're a community organization, the program is fully designable because there's a series of about a year and a half's worth of workshops already set in place. It's a full curriculum that you can go ahead and work with me. We'll develop it. I'll do a train the trainer with anybody you want in your organization. I also provide support while your organization runs the program.
Awesome. Awesome. So is there like an ideal age to catch these young people and put them into these mentorship programs?
I usually tell people if you want to break it up into small cohorts, I, I usually say 13 to 17 and then 18 to 24.
Okay.
Those are some prime ages because both those groups are going to deal with a different set of issues. And you want to be able to, one, speak the language of that young person sitting in front of you without having to adjust it by having a 13-year-old and a 25-year-old in the program. So it's really about developing a small cohort of age groups, and then working with the curriculum to make sure it speaks to that age.
Okay, great. Now, before I ask you the random question, I just thought of one more thing here. I want you to, if you could, talk to the young man who might be 20, 21, 22, and he's currently in life and he's stuffing tacos and flipping burgers and he's saying, well, I guess this is it for me. What would you say to him, Dr. Ross?
I would tell him, one, I have absolutely been there. I have been 21, 22, stuffing tacos and flipping burgers and had nothing else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would tell him is simply to understand, you know, uh, you have yet to step into your purpose. And the truth be told, what you're doing now may help you step into your purpose. So all you have to do is really, 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 really open yourself up first to those around you because there's mentors around you right now. There's people right now who are stretching out their hands to you, but you may not see it yet because it happened to me. I had so many young people trying to reach out to me and give me a hand that I couldn't see it.
Mm.
So open yourself up to those people around you because I'm telling you, within your circle, there are 2, 3, 4, 5 people who can help you take you out of that situation you're in and start to position you for your purpose, but you got to be open to it.
Mm.
That's the first step.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Because sometimes they get stuck in these ruts and don't see that they've got a way out. So open your eyes. So we're going to do the random question, Dr. Rod. Let's see what we got. And then I want you to tell everybody how they connect with you because we need to get your programs and you out there so people can, oh, I just cut off what I was saying. And what's one item on your bucket list?
One item on my bucket list. I want to go to the Galapagos Islands.
Awesome. Awesome. They, was it? I just read that due to climate change and something like that, something had just, the arch had just broken down or something. I think I read that in the news there, but awesome. All the ecosystem there is just, well, Dr. Rod, Dr. Mike Rodriguez, how do we get in touch with you so we can get your programs and implement them in our communities and possibly get you to speak and pick up the book? And I'll just tell everybody how we connect with you.
Absolutely. You can reach me through my website, drrod.com. That's dr-rod.com. Or shoot me a DM on Instagram, Dr. Mike Rod. Right? It works. It works. Dr. Mike Rod, Dr_MIK_ROD. I will answer.
Yes, he will. I'm a testimony to that. Like I said, sometimes I'm like, I know people are like, who is this strange? Because we get so much spam. I'm like, who is this strange woman contacting me? But anyways, I appreciate you so much, Dr. Rodney, and I appreciate what you're doing. The next generation is so important to me, and anybody who's out there putting in the work and rolling up their sleeves and going in for our young folks. I just can't thank you enough from my small piece of the world. I truly appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the success in the world. You have a wonderful personality, so I know you're going to do some fantastic things.
Why, thank you, dear, thank you, dear. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.